This is a Bamses podcast. We're truly sorry.
Hello guys and welcome back. Welcome back to the Bamster Show. My name is Bamm Havoc and today I am doing this section leading you into the comic book shop talk with TJ and Drac. Guys, stick around for that. That's actually one of my favorite shows on the Bamsters. Yes, I do listen to these guys. They know their shiz. Right, getting right down to brass tacks as it were. A few weeks ago, CCP Games have restructured themselves. Again, more restructuring. Right, anyway, enough about that stuff. Getting to the point, sticking to the facts, at least as best I can. CCP Games have gone into some restructuring and they've managed to, I want to say, fire or let go around 90 odd people as far as I can work out, if those figures are correct. They've gone ahead and sold CCP Newcastle, the developers for Eve Valkyrie. And they've gone ahead and shut down CCP Atlanta, the developers for Spark. Now, Spark, if you guys are unaware, is a VR Tron tennis, is the best way I can describe it. A lot of fun to play, very invigorating, very accessorizing, a very, it's Tron, blue and orange, great. This game is $19.99, I believe. It's coming out on Steam soon. It's completely cross-platform with Oculus Rift, Vive, and PSVR, at least as far as I can tell. Or PSVR is cross-platform with Vive and Oculus. I don't think Oculus and Vive are cross-platform. I don't know. Anyway, it's a great game. Go out there, buy it, play it. You will have a lot of fun. I do, and it's a great game. Anyway, CCP Newcastle has been sold. CCP Newcastle are the developers for Eve Valkyrie. Eve Valkyrie is a first-person fighter shooter in space. In the Eve universe. I can now see why they never linked Valkyrie to the CCP market. Anyway, right, I'm trying to keep to the facts here. According to the article that I read, which is in Icelandic, and thanks to Google Translate, I managed to pilfer bits and pieces of information from there. They're closing these, sold one and closed one down, particularly to focus on the mobile market. And the mobile market, as far as I can work out, is Eve Gunjack. And Eve Gunjack came from CCP Shanghai. CCP Shanghai is their mobile division, as far as I can work out, and I hope I am right because I haven't done much research into that. Eve Gunjack is a hugely, wildly successful game, and that's what they're going to be pursuing. That makes a lot of sense. Financially, CCP are known for following money, like the Ferengi. And this stinks of the rules of acquisition. Yeah. Anyway, trying to stay serious, trying to stay positive. Yeah. So they're going to be following the money essentially, as far as I can work out, which makes a lot of sense financially and business-wise because they are a business at the end of the day, and businesses like like CCP need to make money to keep themselves afloat, keep the company going. And if the market points towards mobile gaming, then they have got to go to mobile gaming and cut off the rest of the fat. Make it a lean, mean game making machine. Haha, ninja, wah! So yeah, they're following the market. They followed the first-person shooter market with Dust 514. That failed miserably on the PlayStation 3. Speaking of Dust 514, the footage you're currently seeing is from Yo Jolly Roger. This is his B-roll, C-roll. Not the best footage ever. He wasn't a really good Dust 514 player, was Jolly Roger, or Yo Jolly Roger, but he tried hard. He tried. Yes, he tried. The footage here is obviously of Jolly Roger himself, so guys, go across, give him some props for the B-roll he managed. I don't have any more footage of my heavy action. I deleted that years ago to make room for all the other games that I opened myself up for. Anyway, back on track. Right. They're following the mobile market. That's where the financials and money's pointing. That's where they're going according to this article. I will link the article in the description below. Thank you very much, G, for doing that. If you go ahead and Google Translate it, because Icelandic is a beautifully wonderful language that makes no goddamn sense, you'll have to pick and choose particular sentences and phrases out of that, thanks to Google Translate, which fails miserably. and sort of piece together what this guy's actually saying about it. You see Hilmar standing there. He's actually lost a lot of weight, Hilmar. Last time I saw him, he was a bit of a bit of a pork chop. He's now a bit of a asparagus in orange juice. Orange juice? Tomato juice. Tomato juice. Anyway, enough about insulting him. So that's essentially what it is. They restructured. They've got rid of a whole lot of people. Just to name a few, let me quickly go get a few names that I've got here. Clickety click. Clickety click click click. And there we go. The names so far, that I won't lie, I haven't done much research into them because I don't want to dig into this because my tinfoil hat is just in the cupboard next to me and I don't want to grab it out. But the names so far are CCP Manifest, Logibro, Frame, my dude, my boy, dude, much love to you. I know we never got on, but you know, respect, bro, respect. You did a good job. Logic Loop, Lilu, Hunter, Phantom, Pearl Jive, Shadowcat, Alvine, and apparently 90 other to go. Right, that's all by and by. They got rid of the community side of Eve, and there's a lot of conspiracy theory about that, saying, well, if you get rid of the community, the game's folding because that's what you did with DOS 514. You get rid of the community lead, so the community doesn't explode, and they don't know. But anyway, I'm not indulging that side of my tinfoil hat. I'm not going to be pulling it out the cupboard just yet. I'll leave that for another episode. Getting back to the topic, because I keep getting sidetracked for this, because this just makes my suspicions run wild with this company. They're following the market. They're going to be developing more mobile games. They've sold CCP Newcastle. They've got rid of CCP Atlanta. Both development houses have made great games. Eve Valkyrie is a brilliant first-person shooter, pilot-type action game. I've played it. I still play it. Great game. It makes me a little bit sick now and then, but that's mostly my fault because I constantly play this game. Spark is a Virtual tennis. I've already said this, blah, 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 and they're following the virtual markets. With the virtual markets, they're following the mobile markets. And that is essentially it, right? There is an Eve event in London happening on the 18th of November that some Valkyrie pilots are trying to get together and, you know, like a Eve Valkyrie event. So they go into a curry house, quite a few Eve Valkyrie pilots are hooking that together so they can go and have a big last final blowout. Just please, for the love of God, do not give Red Cape or CCP Red Cape or Redders or Redman any pizza, please, because not only will she eat the pizza, she'll eat the board the pizza came on. That duck and pizza, forget about it. Just forget about it. They demolish his pizza. That child is a pizza eating machine. Right, and that is essentially it, guys. This news, yes, is a little bit old. Yes, that's mostly my fault. I didn't do a reaction video straight away. You know, life happens, but done a video now about it. Please go out there, show some love to your favorite CCP developer. I know I have. I've already offered my condolences and whatever help I can give and whatever have you. Please send them a nice tweet. Please send them some nice things, because these guys have worked hard, particularly the guys over at CCP Newcastle and CCP Atlanta, and all the community guys, right? These guys have worked hard to not only provide you with as best experience of a game that they can provide, but also a good community to actually live from, right? Please, guys, go out there, show some love to your developers. And that's essentially it, guys. Essentially, yeah, just a quick 5-minute jibber jabber from myself, offering my heartfelt sympathies and condolences. If you guys didn't know this, where the bloody hell have you been living, under a freaking rock or something? Gee, good God. And maybe shortly I will I'll use G and we will open this topic up for more discussion, because this, as G has said, reminds him of what happened with DOS 514, where because DOS 514 was no longer economically viable according to CCP, they then started to, you know, take it out by the knees. You know, community manager, restructuring, blah blah blah. Anyway, I'm not going to indulge those, because this really is just this is just too titivating for my I do like a bit of tinfoiling, because it just makes you think of wild things. Anyway, guys, that is it. That is all you need to know, really. CCP have restructured. They've sold Eve. They sold CCP Newcastle. They've getting rid of Spark. They shut down CCP Atlanta. Eve Spark is coming out. Go buy it. It's a great game. CCP Newcastle have been sold to another company. Let's hope that that company will then further what Eve Valkyrie could have been and will be a massively beautiful game, and it is already a very pretty game, despite what some people might tell you. And they're focusing on the mobile market, which makes a lot of sense because that's where the money is. You know, all the casual players are there, and a lot of tryhards too, but that's where the market is. Because if you look at Korea, look at Japan, look at China, look at pretty much most of the world, everybody and their dog, no word of a lie, has a mobile phone. And if CCP can put a game from themselves on every single mobile phone, winner, winner, chicken dinner, money, boys, money. So that's essentially what they're going to do, and I think it's a very clever move. I don't think you need to shut down 2 development houses for it, but that's not. I'm not a business analyst or a business journalist or whatever you want to call it. So guys, that's it for me. I'll leave you with TJ and Drac.
This is good, and if you like bacon, then come listen to us at Rated R.
Hey folks, and welcome back to another Comic Shop Talk. As always, I'm your host Drek, and with me, my buddy TJ.
What's up, y'all?
So, this week, we're gonna kind of try to string our topics together, but they're a bit strange and wide. But we'll just jump right in. So the first thing we have you wanted to talk about was Boom's WWE Comic.
I'm going to be talking today about 3 comics that you guys should be reading. And the first one I want to talk about is Boom's WWE comic that they're doing. Even if you don't watch WWE or you don't really have a thing for professional wrestling in any way, it's not good for a wrestling comic. It's good for a comic. It's got a rotating arsenal of creators on it. Different writers and artists have worked on it. Dennis Hopeless has written a bunch of it. Rob Guillory from Chew has done all the New Day segments in there, which is great. Ed McGuinness, I mean, come on, man, you know, Captain America, Deadpool, Spider-Man, you know, Batman, Superman, you name it. He did recently did a really cool Ultimate Warrior story. So it's been a lot of fun. But one of the cool things that they've been doing is they've been getting some of the WWE superstars to co-write some of the comics with them. And recently they had AJ Styles work on the SummerSlam one-shot. But coming up in WWE issue 13, they're going to do a story in there that's co-written by none other than Samoa Joe, which is going to be awesome because not only is Samoa Joe one of the coolest wrestlers in the industry, but he's also a really big comic book fan. So it's kind of neat to see guys like that who can really make this convergence come together. And when you're a pro wrestler, you're kind of like a real life superhero. So to be a guy in the ring getting to write about himself in the comic, it's really kind of neat. So it's definitely one of the 3 comics that I'm bringing up today that you guys should be checking out.
So that's kind of cool because these guys who are, you know, playing these characters, you know, in the matches and whatnot, are getting to actually write for some of this in the characters. That's neat.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to kind of help enhance the character that you're already playing, that you're getting to dictate with the writers and the bookers backstage, and you're just really kind of filling in the gaps in terms of storylines on television. But again, even if you don't watch the program, it's still really accessible to a new comic book reader. So it's definitely worth checking out if you just want some really cool, fun, action-based stuff with a little drama to it, because what's pro wrestling without some drama?
Well, and it's funny, too, because I can remember when you and I have had conversations about pro wrestling and some of the storylines and stuff that you remember, even from way back, like when I was a kid and I watched some of the wrestling, but I never got into the story stuff. You know, for me, it was like a conversation we had about Gears of War, you know.
Yeah.
How much about the story did I know? Not really a lot, because I just wanted to sit down, shoot things, and blow things up. With wrestling, it was... I just wanted to watch the guys get in the ring and pummel each other.
And that was the beauty of it, the way it was 25, 30 years ago when we were kids, and it was, you know, the good guy and the bad guy, and the good guy beats up the bad guy, and the bad guy does something kind of messed up, and the good guy prevails. In the last 15 to 20 years, storytelling content has really become such a big part of it that now you're going to root for the bad guy sometimes, but that's because the bad guy is doing something that you kind of believe in, and, you know, maybe the good guy isn't so good at all. And they've really taken a cue from comic book storytelling. And as we've discussed before, in much the same way that film and television and animation and video games takes that long-form narrative storytelling that comics does, now they're using it. So it's really neat to see them kind of put back into it with comics.
25 to 30 years ago when we were kids. Why you gotta do that? Make me feel old, man.
Hey, man, you're only as old as you feel, old man.
Well, on that note, speaking of some other very old characters in comic books, you mentioned something about getting to talk to some kids about how cities can be characters in comic books, and I want to bring that up because just the topic itself sounded kind of interesting.
Yeah,
talk about that a little bit.
It's pretty cool. I got to talk to an urban geography class from San Diego City College, and I was talking to them about how cities take on the role of characters in comics, and I don't just mean Metroplex or Fortress Maximus from Transformers, where they're a character and a city, but the idea that Gotham City and Metropolis and Opal City and Bloodhaven and Keystone City and Central City, all these fictional cities in comics really take on this great characterization. And then at the same time, some of the real cities like the Marvel Universe and its use of New York City, it really takes on a whole new dynamic when you throw all these characters in there. So it's always fun because you get to do different things to the fictional cities, and you really get to bring out sides of the real cities that you may not necessarily get to do. So it was a lot of fun seeing their eyes kind of light up and seeing the light bulbs turn on with the discussion of the differences in cities, and, you know, how the kind of Anton First architecture that Gotham City has, and then that really beautiful, like, streamlined, perfect modern skyline that Metropolis has, and all the way down to the characterization of Smallville as a town, or Blue Valley, Nebraska, which, you know, Wally West, the Flash, he's from there. Courtney Whitmore, Stargirl, she's from there. So even the small towns in the DC universe have these great characterizations to them. So it was really neat to get to be able to discuss that with them and show them that there's so much more to the cities in comics than just being a backdrop.
The cities themselves have quite a bit of personality.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, when you think Metropolis, you think of this really, really cool, protective, safe guy who wears these bright colors and shows his face because he wants you to have something you can trust. Whereas that guy in Gotham who wears that mask and he's scary and no one knows if he exists. But if he does, he has all these operatives going around, and how can you really trust that at all? And then on the flip-flop, you've got Opal City, where Starman is from, and everybody knows his secret identity. He's a public dude. He owns a small business there, and, you know, everybody, it's a city, but it's a smaller city, and you really get this great sense of community out of these characters, and they take pride in the fact the original Starman is from Opal City, and they've got their own superhero legacy, and while it's not as big as, say, Metropolis with Superman, it's theirs, and there's a sense of pride that comes with that. And you can only really do that with fictional cities, so it's neat to see fictional cities take on that role of the character.
What do you really think you can only do that with fictional cities? Like, I mean, don't they do some of that a little bit with Marvel Universe, where, you know, you've got characters from, like you mentioned,
Sure.
New York City, or parts of New York City, even like Hell's Kitchen.
Well, sure. I mean, you know, I mean, right now I can sit here and tell you Daredevil's from Hell's Kitchen, and Luke Cage is from Harlem, and Spider-Man's from Forest Hills, and you know, I could do that all day. But it's easy for me to do that because I'm from there. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you know how, like, in Doctor Who, when there's time travel stories, there's a thing called a fixed point, and it's the thing that can't be changed no matter what they do.
Right.
There are certain things that I feel like can't be done with the real quote-unquote cities that you can totally do with fictional cities. Great example is Bloodhaven, Nightwing City. At one point in the DC Universe, totally wiped off the map. Suicide Squad ends up dropping Chemo, this big kind of living chemical bomb villain, right on the city. Kills all of Nightwing's friends, citizens, everything. So it's kind of fun with the fictional cities because you can go totally ham with that. And you can certainly get that feel, like Coast City, like with Hal Jordan, when Coast City was destroyed. Coast City was so much of Hal Jordan's identity. It was so much of what made Hal, his love of the city, his friends, his family there. And when you lose not just the characters, but the character that the city adds to the main character in the book, it fundamentally changes the character. And there's no way you can wipe New York off the map or LA or whatever. You can certainly make some pretty big changes, but you know they're just going to go back to normal. The nice thing about that, though, too, is when you get a small town, like, for example, with Smallville, you can play with different character tropes with it as well. So often, especially in the real world, and especially with, everything that goes on in the country, there's, different walks of life. There's always this idea that the small town is this kind of backwards sort of thing, and it's not very progressive. But you look at Smallville and you look at their way of life there, while it's that very kind of like general store, candy store sort of small town, you've got really progressive people there like the Kents. And as far as I'm concerned, the Kents might be the best parents in comics. So it's kind of neat because the Kents, being who they are, having never left Smallville, except, to go to Metropolis to visit Clark, having never left Smallville, you would think they'd be a product of the town. And if they are, that's got to mean it's a really great town.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty of the fictional cities and towns, is it can be whatever you need it to be, and usually it's what it is to enhance the characters you're reading.
Well, and on that note of small towns as characters in these stories, you made me put this one on the list, and I'm gonna have to, I don't know.
I'll be spoiler free.
Yeah, I was gonna say I might have to hog tie you, or just let my pit bull French kiss you or something if you start to get into spoiler territory. But
No.
Stranger Things season 2.
Just like Batman War Games will be spoiler free. That's a joke for any of you who read that book. But no, Stranger Things 2. Oh my god! I know it's not a comic and this is Comic Shop Talk, but this is our segment on the podcast, and we're going to talk about it. So if you don't like it, you can go kick rocks barefoot.
I was going to say you could blame Comic-Con because they're basically just pop culture con now. So
that's a good point. No, we love Comic-Con. Stranger Things 2 was awesome, and without going into detail, I love well-rounded storytelling. I love fully immersed storytelling. I love characters that are their most fully realized versions of themselves, but still with room to grow. And so much of this season was that, and clearly I can't go into too much. If you guys want to talk about it on Twitter, just hit me up. My Twitter handle is obviously in the Bamster site, so just get me on there. But it's so much fun. If there's two things that I love in storytelling, obviously it's people with superpowers, and it's teen drama and teen angst. I love it. Give it all to me. And, oh, man, the only thing better than teen angst is preteen angst. It's so wonderful. And this was just awesome. This was, again, without going into too much detail, every character is so much better than they were last season, for better or for worse. So it's very cool to see that there's a lot of character progression and development for everybody. So, and even where you think there isn't, there really is. And we can't talk about it because someone here hasn't watched it.
I've only seen the first 2 episodes. I've had so much going on lately, I haven't been able to make the time to watch the rest yet.
Just trust me. And yeah, if you want to talk about it, just hit me up on Twitter. Since someone else can't.
At least not for a couple of weeks until I can finish it up.
On that note, let's go into something that is just as awesome as Stranger Things 2, and that is your second comic book that you need to be reading this week, and that is Captain America issue 695 by Mark Waid and Chris Samnee. If you guys have already read their work on Daredevil, you already know that this is the best book in comics this month. Waid and Samnee on Daredevil, they took all of these great fundamentals about Daredevil and really brought them back to the forefront for the character without undoing the things that had come before, without undoing guys like Ed Brubaker and Brian Michael Bendis and all these other guys that really helped develop Daredevil for a modern audience. And Captain America, it's no exception. It's just the beauty of it right now is while Marvel is trying to figure out who is who and who's in what role, which character is this superhero this week, Mark Waid really makes Steve Rogers feel like Captain America again, but not at the expense of Sam Wilson having been Captain America. And it's just fantastic. It's there's a great moment in there, and I don't want to ruin too much, but there's a great moment between Captain America and a little girl in the book on what it means to protect people and why if you're bigger, you have to protect those smaller than you. And it's so nice in comics right now where heroism sometimes is a little bit of a cheap commodity rather than a character trait. And everybody wants to blur the lines on who's the hero and who's the villain. And especially, let's be real, in our political climate today, it's so nice to see Captain America unapologetically and unequivocally be Captain America. It doesn't matter who's in the mask. And Sam was so great for that. It's just really cool to see Steve again as well. So no matter who your Captain America is, you're still getting great Cap comics. It's just awesome to see Wade Insomnia, after everything that happened with Hydra Cap and all that stuff, really just let Steve put on the costume. It's not a movie costume. It's the swashbuckler boots. It's the wings on the mask, whole 9 yards. It's Captain America, and it's just boss.
So he's, I saw something where he's basically trying to recover the Cap name now after all the events that have happened.
Yeah, and not recover it from, Sam's time as Cap in the same way that he didn't have to take it away from when Bucky was Cap. It's really just so many evil people have done so many things in the name of Captain America that, Steve has to set it right, and Steve has to let the world know that Steve Rogers is a man to be trusted, and Captain America is an idea and an ideal that still stands for something. Again, like I said, people are weaponizing politics, people are weaponizing feelings and emotions, and it's really neat to see a guy like Cap kind of stand up again. And even if it's just fiction, it's why we read fiction, because we're trying to find the thing that keeps us going.
From Captain America to Captain Marvel.
That's right. And not just any Captain Marvel, Shazam! Sorry, you have to say it like there's an exclamation point at the end of it.
So I guess some of the big news, Zach Levi cast as Shazam.
Mm-hmm. And no. He was cast as Captain Marvel. Shazam is the wizard.
Well, yes. Okay,
Shazam is the title of the movie.
Apologies, yes.
I'm just being a smartass because everybody wants to change it.
No, I know. Well, wasn't there something about them not using the Captain Marvel name because it's a DC character versus Marvel Comics or something?
They've never been able to use Captain Marvel as a title. They can use it in name.
Oh, okay. I knew there was something, but I
doubt they'll use it in the movie, but until they say otherwise, he'll always be Captain Marvel to me. Or the big red cheese.
So, and then there's also a young boy cast by the name of Asher Angel. Mark Strong, at least is the rumor right now, to be playing the film's villain.
I'm actually a little sad about Mark Strong possibly playing Dr. Savannah. And a part of that is because I don't see him as Dr. Savannah, and also because Mark Strong was an amazing Sinestro in an okay Green Lantern movie. So it's a little bit of a bummer because I really wish he could still play Sinestro, and I don't see why he can't. But
I liked him as Sinestro.
Yeah, and again, it's not a terrible movie. It's just not a great movie, but he really does what he's able to do in it, and he looked the part. It was ripped right off the page. But speaking of being ripped right off the page, this kid who's playing Billy is totally...
Looks the part.
He's totally the right age, all of it for Billy Batson. But this has to be said. When DC introduced Captain Marvel and the Shazam concept into the New 52, the first thing Captain Marvel does when Billy says the magic word and turns into Captain Marvel, because it's a kid turning into an adult with a couple of his friends, first thing they said is, let's go get some beer. No, that's not Captain Marvel. And the whole point of Billy being bestowed that magic word, being bestowed this gift, is for all of the terrible things that happened to Billy. For those of you who might not know, Billy Batson's parents were killed. He's an orphan. He's been living on his own. And never once has he kind of compromised the ideals that his parents raised him with. He just tries to do the right thing and does the best he can. And he's just a good kid in a time where kids aren't necessarily always the best. So I don't want to see them dirty up a kid like that. Let him be pure. Let him be special. And let the gift of Shazam be exactly that. Let it be a gift. You don't have to make him edgy or, kind of have a dark side to him. Just that's what Black Adam is for. That's what not Teth Adam so much as Theo Adam. That's what he is for. Let that be the edge with the gift. You know, just let Billy be a good kid who, as an adult, is doing the good things that a kid thinks an adult does.
Whenever I think of Captain Marvel, it's funny because I always remember this one scene from one of the Justice League animated movies. The current team members are sitting around the table discussing potential...
It's from an episode of Young Justice.
Is it from Young? Yeah.
It's the one where Batman's talking about why he has Robin.
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts of that is the confrontation between Batman and Wonder Woman, where Wonder Woman is like, or no, somebody says something to the effect of like, how can we let a kid on the team?
Well, they bring up they're talking about Plastic Man, and Captain Marvel starts laughing. They're like, well, why are you laughing? He's like, oh, well, Plastic Man cracks me up. And they're like, all right, let's talk about it. You know, should Captain Marvel still be in the Justice League, even though we know he's really a 12-year-old kid?
Yeah.
And then they talk about, oh, well, you know, we can't have him in there, maturity and wisdom. And Wonder Woman calls Batman out on it.
Well, she calls him out on it, but before that, it was like part of the discussion was that he had kept that from them, that he had lied to them, basically, and not disclosing that information. And Batman's like, well, I knew he was a kid. And Wonder Woman's like, well, of course you did. You know, but it was hilarious because...
Well, why does Wonder Woman say, of course you did?
Because of the dynamic with Batman and Robin.
Bingo.
And I get that, but the funny thing was, of everyone in the Justice League, everyone is clueless except for Batman, who is the world's greatest detective, who has obviously, you know, learned this over time. But it's just, it's funny to see that, and then to see her disdain for him because of the Batman and Robin dynamic.
But, you know, it's fascinating characterization because Batman isn't going to tell him, no, don't do this thing, because why? Robin is trained to do what he does. Billy isn't. But what does Batman get to be for this other kid, for this other 12-year-old kid? He gets to be a guiding force for him too. Aquaman says it in that scene when they're talking about Captain Marvel having the wisdom of Solomon. Aquaman says, but wisdom doesn't equal maturity. And that's where Batman gets to come into play and maybe guide him a little bit, especially with that secret knowledge up until that point that he knew Billy was 12. Plus, having Billy around other kids his age, like Dick Grayson and Wally West and so on and so forth, that enables him to grow not amongst the Justice League, but amongst his own peers.
And help mold him into the type
Captain Marvel's peers are the Justice League. Billy Batson's peers are the other teen superheroes. But there's that weight of, do I tell them who I am, you know? And
because of the fear of not being let in the club anymore.
And on top of that too, you know, there's this idea of, you know, how would the wizard feel if I told them my secret? Will I lose my gift? You know, and it makes Captain Marvel a really interesting character. And once again, you know, he's one of those characters. It's the same problem that people have with Superman, where they don't like a character because he has all these powers, but they don't really give you a reason why they don't like them. They just say, oh, well, they're boring. Captain Marvel isn't boring. Captain Marvel is really one of the most fascinating characters in comics because you get to play with the levels of dynamics from the perspective of a kid and the levels of dynamics from the perspective of an adult. And if you do it really well, it gets to be from the perspective of the kid playing an adult.
Well, and that's all well and great to talk about that, and I understand that. But I think most folks don't read that deeply into things. And so when I would say probably most folks...
Our audience should.
Well, they probably should take a little more time to analyze it. But I think most folks, the attitude or the opinion, at least when they come from it, when they say the character's boring, which I don't completely agree with either. But I think it's the idea that everything is too easy when it comes to confrontation. Because when you talk about Superman, you know, any person that he runs into and is in any kind of physical confrontation with on Earth, any regular human being, it's no contest unless they're holding kryptonite.
But why do we have that problem with him and not with Martian Manhunter, who has more powers than Superman?
Because Superman is more well known.
Not to our audience.
To the broader audience. To the audience of folks who probably are more likely to criticize that Superman is boring because of the types of powers. But
that's also the same people who say Batman's the best because he can beat anybody because he can do anything. They don't like Superman because he can do anything. I love Batman because he can do everything. It makes no sense to me, and it never has. It never will.
That's funny.
But it's not incorrect.
No, it's not. It absolutely is not.
But speaking of Batman, you know what we should be talking about right now?
That would be number 3 on your list?
Yes, the number 3 comic that you should be reading this month. The next issue, I think, is next week. Or next week... well, it would be, I guess, whenever you listen to this. But Detective Comics. Now, most of you who listen to this know that I am super passionate about the DC universe and DC characters, but I've felt very kind of deflated by the last maybe 6 years of direction of the DC universe. It's really left me kind of sad, just because I love these characters so much, and it's kind of disheartening to see them go ways that you don't necessarily think they should be going because of the integrity of these characters. Detective Comics 696 and 697 really, really gave me something to love, and I'm really excited about it. Any of you who listen know that Tim Drake is the greatest Robin of all time. Yeah, that's right, we said it. But all kidding aside, James Tynion IV and Eddie Barrows are the creative team on Detective, and James Tynion has gone on record talking about how Tim Drake is his favorite Batman character, but I haven't really seen him do anything that's made me say, yeah, I totally buy that, until these last 2 issues, and 698's coming up soon. But it's basically they're taking Tim Drake and reestablishing him again, maybe not so much as the main Robin for Batman, which he still should be, but they're giving him back his origin. It's none of this New 52, he's in witness protection, and his parents are still alive nonsense. It's Tim figured out the identity of Batman and Robin, figured out that Robin was Nightwing. He was at the Grayson's murder that night at the circus. That's the night he met Dick Grayson, blah, 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 all this stuff. Figured out that Robin with the triple somersault, and that only Dick Grayson could do that at the circus. That's all back. And it's awesome because it goes into, well, why did Tim become Robin? He wasn't compelled by crime and by loss and all that. He was compelled by Batman needs Robin and Nightwing's not Robin anymore, and I can help. He was compelled by the fact that he's a good person. And we're getting all that stuff again. But it's cool because this entire time, I think since issue 3 of Rebirth Detective, but now we're back to the classic numbering, so it's 697. Just go with it. Tim has been missing since the launch of the current Detective series. And we finally found out where he's been and who took him. And it's all going to have to do with all the craziness with the Watchmen stuff going on. But Jor-El is who took Tim Drake off of the plane of existence because of Tim's importance to the DC universe. And Jor-El is trying to pull him from everything that's happening to basically tell him, you have a choice to have a normal life. Just get out of this and take it. And of course, Tim's not going to do that. Tim's going to try and stop what's happening. And talk about flashback. You've got future evil Tim Drake from Jeff Johns' alternate universe story arc in Teen Titans from like 10 years ago. He teams up with Tim to escape from there. And now they're fighting Doomsday. And it's awesome. It's what comics should be. It's so much fun. It's super cool. But then you get the big twist regarding Superboy. And not this Jonathan Kent stuff. Con-El, the Superboy, the Superman Lex Luthor clone. So if this means with those two, if I'm getting Bart Allen out of this and I get a tried and true classic Young Justice reunion, you got me again, DC. So, but really, all kidding aside and my own personal bias aside, I'm excited that I'm reading a Batman book again because I haven't really been excited about Batman books in a very long time. So I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm really hopeful for the future of these characters right now.
You sound a little excited, and I haven't heard you this excited about a DC comic in quite a while.
Yeah. I have 3 DC tattoos on me, guys, and I'm not reading DC books anymore. So it's not easy. That's been tough. But no, this is awesome stuff.
And I guess that'll lead into what we saved towards the end. It's probably the biggest story, though.
Oh, yeah. Just broke today, too.
Yeah, so pay attention to this one because my buddy here thinks that this means a lot of hopeful things for DC Comics.
Not an imaginary story, not a hoax. That is correct. 17 years of exclusive at Marvel is over. Brian Michael Bendis just signed an exclusive with DC Comics, and this is the most earth-shattering news within comics to end 2017 on. I know we've got a couple more months, but there's no news that will top this in comics.
Oh, now don't challenge.
Hey, if that means I get the real DC universe back, then I'll say it. No, all jokes aside, this is so exciting. Bendis has done really amazing work in the last 17, 18 years at Marvel. I mean, he put the shot in the arm there. He changed the game. We got the Ultimate Universe out of him with Ultimate Spider-Man. We got Marvel Max with Alias, with Jessica Jones, all this really amazing stuff. New Avengers, House of M, No More Mutants. Bendis has done it all. Secret Invasion. So for a guy like him to go to DC and to hopefully get to do storytelling on that level with what I truly believe are the archetypes of superhero comics, this is going to be a whole new ballgame. And I'm calling it right now. Today's date is
November 7th.
November 7th, 2017. I'm calling this right now. It may not be the first book he does, but I guarantee you, Brian Michael Bendis, Jim Lee, Legion of Superheroes, bank on it. But if they're doing it right, you got to get him on some of the weird, kind of off-the-wall DC characters. Ragman would be really cool. Who else could you get, man? The Creeper, Dr. Fate, characters like that would be boss. But he's so good, talking about my love earlier of teen drama and teen angst, he's so good at writing youthful teenage characters that getting him on maybe a classic Young Justice or a Teen Titans book, but specifically with Robin, Superboy, and Impulse, those three characters, and then maybe throw some more in there, whether it's Static or Blue Beetle, Wonder Girl, you name it. That could totally play to his strength as a writer. I think it would be such a blast to see that. But I mean, gosh, who wouldn't want to see him write Superman? There are so many cool things that can come out of Bendis writing at DC. So it's going to be a really interesting 2018 in comics. But man, I mean, I'm along for the ride. So I can't wait.
Obviously, you don't have necessarily any insider information, but if you had to guess, what do you think that would be the reason for someone who's had such a lengthy career in one company to then shift and move to another?
Creative freedom. He's had a lot of creative freedom at Marvel, but really he's literally written everybody. There's barely a character that Brian Michael Bendis hasn't touched or affected in some way, shape, or form, and it's been amazing to see what he's done with them. I mean, we lived in a world where there was an Avengers team that was Bucky as Captain America, and The Thing, and Luke Cage, and Spider-Man, and Jessica Jones, and Iron Fist, and Wolverine, and Squirrel Girl was guest starring in it before she became the pop culture darling that she is right now. There are so many characters that Bendis pulled out of obscurity, and everybody loves them now. Squirrel Girl is one of them. Luke Cage, Iron Fist, those are two big examples of it. The Skrulls were lame until Brian Michael Bendis reintroduced them into the Marvel Universe with Secret Invasion and all that stuff. His Norman Osborn, his creepiest Norman Osborn ever, maybe his and Warren Ellis's, but he was able to take all of these characters and really, really make you remember why you like them and why you hate them and why you root for them and why you attach yourselves to them. He was really good at that. He was a chatty mother, that was for sure. I mean, the dude could write dialogue like no other, but it was just a blast. I mean, how could you not feel the tangibility in his characters? There's a great moment, I think it's in New Avengers issue 3 or 4, and after this big battle at the Raft, the big superhero prison, you've had Luke Cage and Daredevil and Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man and Spider-Woman are all fighting these villains, and Captain America believes, just like every iteration of the Avengers, they don't come together because they decide we're going to be a team. The Avengers come together because of fate. That's always been the thing with the Avengers. Cap believes that all of them they're there because it was fate telling him in Iron Man, after the last team of Avengers was almost fully killed, that this is a new Avengers and we have to restart the team. Iron Man doesn't believe it, doesn't buy it. Captain America is totally all in, and he wants to go to everybody and recruit them. Goes to Spider-Man. Spidey's all, Peter's all beat up and bruised, arms in a sling. He's coming out of the high school that he teaches at, and Steve stops him. They're talking. And he says, have you thought about being an Avenger? And Spidey's like, yeah, well, I'm not really a team guy. I'm kind of do my own thing. Cap looks at him and he says, you've been your own guy for so long. How's this worked out for you? And Peter kind of sits there and he thinks about it. And he says to Cap, well, I could use the extra money, right? You guys are still government funded. And Steve looks at me and goes, yeah, actually, there's no paycheck with being an Avenger anymore. And you get the best Spidey line. It's, well, you know, of course that would be my luck that it's not paid. And it's just this great character study on these two characters, this unwavering faith that Captain America has in Spider-Man that almost nobody save Mary Jane has. And this idea that Peter says, you know what, if Captain America says it, I should do it, but this is totally going to have Parker look attached. And it's just, it's awesome. So if we can get that level of characterization, that level of dialogue, that level of inter-character dynamic, I think this is really going to be the shot in the arm that DC's been looking for. And it's going to be great for Marvel because trade paperback and hardcover sales are going to go through the roof, man. So this is a good time for everybody. Comics have had a really rough year in terms of sales, and I do think a shakeup like this is something that every publisher in the industry needs. So this is going to be an interesting 2018 for comics, that's for sure.
Well, and the thing I liked about this news is from the little bits and clips that I've caught online, this doesn't seem to be another piece of drama throughout the year. It's not like there was some huge drama at Marvel, and that's why he decided to quit and leave, and now there's all this, you know, back and forth and nastiness and undertones, and it really doesn't seem to be that way. It seems like he's happy to be moving on, and it seems like, you know...
moving forward.
Yeah, well, moving forward, and it seems like that some of the other folks who know and have tweeted and, you know, jokingly about that, it all seems to be good-natured. So that's actually pretty cool. It's a good piece of news.
Bendis has always been a really positive force for the industry. He's not one of those guys who talks smack about others or undercuts people to bring himself up. And there's a lot of guys and gals in comics that do that. But he's really just, he's the best guy, man. He's the nicest guy in comics. He's passionate about this. He's passionate about the art form, the literary form, the medium as a whole, the characters, and what comics do for people. You know, you don't stay with comics because, you know, you like spending all this money. You know, you stay with it because it means something to you, because there's something of value. And I've always had this theory, and I'm a huge Marvel guy, I'm a huge DC guy. I've never been one of those guys who feels the need to choose. It's not Star Wars or Star Trek. It's Star Wars and Star Trek. But if there's one thing that the DC universe has always been very good at, it's archetype recognition. You know, 9 out of 10 people, if you say to them, who's the first character you think of off the top of your head in comics, first they'll go to is either Superman or Batman.
Yeah.
You know, first female character you can think of off the top of your head, it is always Wonder Woman. First kid hero you can think of off the top of your head, guarantee you it's always Robin. You know, that's the beauty of what the DC universe is. The DC universe is comics. So it's going to be very cool to see a guy, like I said, who loves this stuff so much and has written one Batman story in his life get to go to the DC universe and make magic for them the way he did for Marvel the last 17, 18 years. So this is going to be awesome. This is going to be a great time to be reading comics. So I'm sure they're going to be building jumping on points. So give it a shot and support the industry, support comic book stores. I'm going to say this real fast because it's been on my mind lately. Going to the movies is great, and watching the shows and playing the games and buying the toys is great, but if you want this stuff to last, support the industry. Buy your comics. It doesn't matter if you're buying the comics digital or you're going into the store, although you should totally go into a store and support your comic shop because you're supporting small business, and there is nothing more American than supporting small business. But really, this is the greatest form of art and literature in the world as far as I'm concerned, and it's one of the 3 true forms of American art as far as I'm concerned. Comics, hip-hop, and jazz have more Americana roots than anything else. Everybody else has their own version, but they're so quintessentially American. And there's something so special about the comic book, and it's for everybody, and it's so accessible for every walk of life, man, woman, or child, religion, race, sex, gender, I don't care. There's a comic for you, and we just need you guys to support it.
Well, and speaking to that age and things, even if you think that you're too old for whatever reason, look, at some point in your life you picked up a comic and maybe several comics and you enjoyed them. If you've got kids, nephews, you know, take them to the comic shop.
Pay it forward.
Get them interested in a couple. And I'm not saying like hook them on it, nothing like that.
I am.
Yeah. But no, introduce them to this, because I remember when I was growing up that at least initially for me, that was what I wanted to read when it was, you know, that was what got me started reading. And then I moved on to other things from there. Mm-hmm. But it was comics is what got me started reading, because before comics, I wasn't even interested in reading.
Yep. No, also, you know, the moment you give a kid a comic book, or the moment you give a kid money to go buy a comic book, they'll never forget that moment. Avengers 266 was the first comic I was ever given. My cousin Kim gave it to me when I was 8 or 9 years old. And the very first comic book that I ever bought was Amazing Spider-Man 350 from 1991. And, those two comics. And again, you see, I'm a DC guy and I love it, but I love Marvel just the same because the Marvel universe in so many ways is my first in terms of the comic itself. So it's, you're really kind of setting the groundwork for their future in terms of the way they read, the way they consume, the art that they make, the art that they take, all of it. You're really doing something special when you're introducing comics into people's lives, especially kids. So just, a little food for thought there.
And on that note, we are going to close it out this week. So I hope you've enjoyed the episode. As always, make sure to like, share, comment if you have any questions or comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. But for me, myself, Drac, I'm out.
Shazam! Oh, wait, I didn't turn into a superhero. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a great night, day, thing.
Whenever you listen.
Please.
Yo, what's up? Where's that guy at? I believe there's two dudes around me. I'm going to restart this. This is lagging a little bit for me.